There are already over 5 billion people expected to watch. The last World Cup final alone pulled in 1.5 billion viewers. And in 2026, every single record is about to be shattered. But here's the real question. Why? Why is this tournament specifically, out of every sporting event ever held, the one that could genuinely be watched by more human beings than anything in history? That's what we're getting into today. Let's start with the numbers because they're almost impossible to wrap your head around. The 2022 World Cup final between Argentina and France pulled in 1.5 billion viewers worldwide. Across the entire tournament, around 5 billion people tuned in at some point. That's more than the Olympic Games, more than the Super Bowl, and more than any other sporting spectacle on Earth. And 2026 is expected to go even further. FIFA is projecting that approximately 6 billion people will engage with the tournament in some form across traditional broadcast, streaming, digital platforms, and out-of-home viewing, a figure that would make it the single most watched sporting event in the history of global media.
National soccer team, as it faces Iran in a heavily anticipated World Cup match up today, are crystal clear. It is win or go home for Team USA. They need to actually win the game. They can't just tie it. If the U.S. does secure a victory, it punches its ticket to the knockout stage of the tournament, but tensions between both countries have also been escalating off the pitch.
6 billion people, out of 8 billion on the planet. Just let that number breathe for a second. So what makes 2026 so different? Why now? Why this tournament specifically? The first reason is the size. This tournament spans 39 days across 16 host cities and features a record-breaking 48 national teams, competing in 104 matches. More teams and more games than any World Cup before it. More teams means more countries represented. More countries represented means more fan bases tuning in. A nation that has never qualified before suddenly has millions of new viewers watching their very first World Cup. Multiply that across the several new nations in this tournament, and you're talking about hundreds of millions of brand new viewers that previous tournaments never had. FIFA President Gianni Infantino has already compared the tournament to having 104 Super Bowls in 1 month. And when you think about it that way, he's not wrong. The second reason is the host nations. The United States, Canada, and Mexico. 3 countries, 3 enormous populations, 3 fan bases that will be watching with a level of intensity and passion that no neutral host could ever generate. Mexico has one of the most passionate football cultures on Earth. Canada qualified for their second ever World Cup, and their fan base is electric. And the United States, the sleeping giant of world football, is finally, genuinely waking up. The 2026 World Cup draw alone became the most watched final draw in English language TV history in the United States, up 242% from the 2022 draw.
The U.S. men's national soccer team is facing high expectations after drawing a favorable group in this summer's World Cup. The U.S. is the betting favorite to win its group, which also includes Australia, Paraguay, and a yet-determined playoff winner. And now coach Mauricio Pochettino says the team can't be complacent, saying the most important thing is to keep improving. And we are so lucky to have U.S. men's national team head coach Mauricio Pochettino here right now for more on all of this. Coach, thank you so much for coming by. Congratulations. What's your reaction to this draw?
That is staggering growth. American audiences are not just aware of this tournament, they are desperate for it. And with the U.S. hosting, the eyes of an entire nation that has barely engaged with football before are now locked in. The third reason is streaming. This is the first World Cup that will be fully consumed across every platform imaginable. Television, mobile, tablet, social media, YouTube, TikTok. Viral moments can spread across the internet within seconds. This constant digital engagement increases interest in the tournament, especially among younger audiences who consume sports through mobile devices and social platforms. A goal scored in the 89th minute in a group stage match will be watched by 50 million people on social media before the final whistle blows. A shock result will trend globally within minutes. Every single moment of this tournament will be amplified to a scale that was simply impossible even 4 years ago. The fourth reason is the stars. This is potentially the last World Cup for some of the greatest players of their generation. Eyes will be on every single match wondering if we're seeing the final chapter of Legends. And alongside them, a new generation of players, teenagers and 20-year-olds, who are ready to announce themselves to the world on the biggest stage in football. When a 19-year-old scores a worldie in front of 90,000 people and 800 million viewers, A new superstar is born in real time. That is must-watch television at a scale nothing else can match. And the fifth reason, the most powerful reason of all, is what football actually means to people. Football is not just a sport. It is the language that most of the world speaks. It crosses every border, every language barrier, every cultural divide. A child in Lagos and a grandfather in Buenos Aires and a teenager in Tokyo are all watching the same match, feeling the same emotions, living and dying with every chance. Nothing else on earth does that. The World Cup carries a cultural weight that goes far beyond sport. The patriotic pride it creates reaches people who never normally watch football. This is the one event where even people who couldn't name a single player will sit down and watch their country play. Offices empty, cities go quiet. Entire nations hold their breath at the same moment. That is not a sporting event. That is a shared human experience. And in 2026, that experience is going to be bigger than it has ever been. So when people ask whether the 2026 World Cup will be the most watched event in human history, the answer is almost certainly yes. The numbers, the stars, the host nations, the technology, the size of the tournament, and the unique power of football to unite the world like nothing else. June 11th cannot come soon enough. And if you're not already excited, you will be.